On this episode of Arts Weekly, I'm speaking with Adrienne Baach and Nancy Kartholl from First Presbyterian Theater.
I think there's a lot of humor. And
Didion
I've seen that play. I've seen 80s play done, and I think there's a lot of great humor in it.
I mean, Joan Didion just nails it here and there. Just, oh, look at this, you know.
And Denise Bates from the Fort Wayne Children's Choir.
We typically do our own season concerts, but we haven't performed on someone else's season concert before, so this is a really exciting time for us, and it's a way for us to showcase those two premier ensembles.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is a production of the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of arts.
Hi, I'm Chuck O'Connor, and you're watching Arts Weekly. Joining me is Adrienne Baach and Nancy Kartholl from First Presbyterian Theater, and they're here to talk about their one-woman shows, The Year of Magical Thinking and Shakespeare's Will. Good to have you both on the show.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Adie, you're going to be playing the character of Joan Didion, the writer, in The Year of Magical Thinking, and Nancy, you're going to be playing William Shakespeare's wife, Anne Hathaway, in Shakespeare's Will. We'll start with you, Adie. Tell us a little bit about Joan Didion and this play, The Year of Magical Thinking.
The Year of Magical Thinking is the year that her husband suddenly died, and her wishing that he would just come back. Mm-hmm. She describes magical thinking as if thinking. If I keep his shoes, he can fill them, okay? Joan Didion is a very acerbic writer, straight shooter, prides herself on seeing it straight, saying it straight. The writing was irresistible, Chuck. I couldn't say no.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Joan Didion, award-winning author.
The book won the National Book Award.
And the book won the National Book Award, and then it premiered on Broadway as a play. It was a book first, then it premiered as a play.
Right, exactly, in 2007, with Vanessa Redgrave, no less.
Oh, okay.
Joan Didion, the play takes place, or begins, December 30th, 2003. Mm-hmm. Vanessa Redgrave opened in 2007, and I think writing it was kind of expiation or controlling her emotions for Joan Didion. She attended every performance. She brought dinner for Vanessa. She and Vanessa would share dinner afterward. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now, Nancy, you're playing Anne Hathaway. William Shakespeare died too on her, and I guess is that what these two plays have in common, or what do they have in common, and why are these two woman plays together on the First Presbyterian Theater season?
Well, I think they certainly do have that common element. We're both widows, and my character certainly faces a lot of loneliness and adversity. She tells the story of really almost her whole life, or certainly her whole life with and without her husband. And I think probably your story is more focused on a particular time. But we use the same space. The set doesn't change. So I think that they'll be really nicely tied together with that theme, and just the idea that women all through time learn how to rise above adversity.
We know a lot about William Shakespeare. Maybe we don't, but obviously we know who he is. But was it hard to find research on Anne Hathaway, his wife, and how did you go about forming a character of Anne Hathaway?
Well, one of the things that I think is so intriguing about this play is that we don't know very much about Anne Hathaway. And so the play takes these tidbits of fact and builds the rest of it very cleverly. But I used a book called Shakespeare's Wife by Germaine Greer for a lot of my research, that book was published a year or two after the play. So the playwright didn't have that book to go by.
Right.
So really, it's wonderful to learn what we know about Anne Hathaway or what the scholars think, but ultimately I figured out that the truth is really just in that script. What the playwright has given me, that's the truth.
Are there any clues as to who she was in any of Shakespeare's plays?
Not much, no, not at all.
He was kind of a
More
mystery
in
man.
his sonnets, a few of the sonnets. One of his early ones, they think, was written to Anne, and that's the only Shakespeare that I speak. The only Shakespearean words that I speak is that particular sonnet. Then there's, I think, at least two others where they think he wrote the sonnet upon suspicion of her infidelity. But
Now, Shakespeare's will is famous. It's famous for a particular line in it. And it says, "I give my wife my second best bed."
and that's it.
That's it. Is that an insult, or what did that mean?
And it was an add-on. He wrote the will in
my
January of the year that he died, so he, must have suspected that he was nearing the end at 52. And he modified it in March. And that's when he wrote the line for his wife.
Is that really all that she received, you think? Or is that just, any insight on the mystery of why one would only bequeath one's wife the second best bed?
That is why I love this play, because the scholars have debated that. Some have said it was actually a tender, sentimental gift, because the second best bed might have been the marital bed, because the best bed would have been saved for guests.
Okay.
But still, typically, a woman of that time should have been expecting a third of his estate, expected to be taken care of. And obviously, she just had a place to sleep.
Especially if she got the future rights to some of those movies and plays that have been,
If only.
over the hundreds of years, or his family. But Eddie, you're playing a woman, Joan Didion, who's still very much alive.
Oh, yes.
How did you go about preparing for your role?
Well, I read the book as well after I'd read the play. And I've read the second book, Blue Nights. And I will not divulge the end of this play, because if you've read the book, the play is different and goes on from there. Joan Didion is not only alive, but just as feisty as ever. She is railing now against what she sees as her frailty. She can no longer wear the 4-inch red sandals that she was so fond of, because there is no one that will pick her up if she falls down.
Oh my gosh.
That gives you some idea of she's used to luxury. I mean, she and John did very well. She and her husband
was John Gregory Dunn, who was also a writer.
They were screenwriters together. The Panic in Needle Park, Up Close and Personal, yes. And they really admired each other. Their marriage was a very good one.
A long-lasting marriage.
Yes,
it must be so hard to lose somebody after all those years.
Precisely.
Like that. But to have a writer of Joan Didion's talent and expressing herself, to write about that must be really very special.
Well, there's a line, not in what Joan Didion writes, but there is a line that says, "I don't know what I think till I see what I say." And I get that feeling with Joan Didion, that she's just working out how to deal with this at the typewriter, at the computer, or whatever.
Now, you taught drama and started the creative writing program at Canterbury High School. Do you admire
Well,
Joan?
there wasn't a high school then, Chuck.
Oh, okay.
It was just beginning, and so it went through 7th grade, I think, the first year I taught there, and 8th grade the second.
Well, as a writing teacher and a drama teacher, you must really admire Didion.
Oh, absolutely, and that's what drew me to this. Just the repetitions. I mean, it's almost poetic. It's
She has a great style.
great style. Absolutely.
Nancy, what are some of the challenges of working on a one-woman show?
Well, I said at rehearsal the other night, I miss people. I miss people on stage with me. I wouldn't trade this experience for anything. I mean, it's been a tremendous learning experience, and I'm thrilled to do it. But it's odd to be the one juggling all the balls instead of volleying them back and forth. It's harder to trust that the audience will be engaged. I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is that there's no moment where I can let down. There is no moment where I can let down. Yeah.
How about you, Amy?
Well, yes, there are no cues. I mean, you know, you're not volleying back and forth. You're not reacting to anything but what's, well, with Joan Didion, with what's in her mind.
And your play opens on January 13th at First Presbyterian
Yes, we
Theater.
must all spit over our left shoulder twice, please.
But I'm sure it's going to be just wonderful. And your play, Shakespeare's Will, opens the next night.
Correct. Actually, the next afternoon. We have a little bit of an unusual schedule because of the repertory. So I think I open at 5 p.m. the next Saturday.
But they run in rep, as they say. What does that mean?
That means I have the 5 p.m. show, she has the 7:30 show on Saturday, and then...
So you can go one evening and see both shows if you
could.
would.
And then the next weekend we'll flip-flop. So she opens on a Friday night, and then the following weekend I'll have that Friday night, and she'll have the Saturday afternoon slot.
I see. Or you can go 2 different nights, one week go to one
Sure.
show, and
Or an afternoon, an evening, 2 different weekends.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so what is the appropriate age group for these plays? Can children come? Is this recommended for adults? Tell us a little bit about who you would recommend see these plays.
I think teenagers, sophisticated teenagers, would be the lower level, for the Didion play.
Okay.
I think it's very intense, and I don't know that it would appeal to children younger.
Mature subject matter, or any other one?
Death is.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. Good point.
I do have some language that is sexually descriptive, a little bit. So young teens probably.
All right. I'll be there.
But I would say PG-13 if it were rated.
And are these plays humorous, or are they, these 2 plays about women grieving over their husbands to a certain extent?
Well, this is gallows humor.
It's gallows humor. So these are not downers necessarily. Would you characterize them as perhaps uplifting in a way?
I think so. Absolutely. I think there's a lot of humor, and
Didion
I've seen that play. I've seen 80s play done, and I think there's a lot of great humor in it.
I mean, Joan Didion just nails it here and there. Just, look at this,
Well,
right.
Just talking to the both of you, I want to come see them, and I bet you want to see each other's plays.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you haven't had a chance. You both were rehearsing separately, right?
Yes. Very separately.
Well, good. Well, thanks for coming on. That's all the time we have for now, and I wish you the best with the year of magical thinking and Shakespeare's Will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chuck.
For more information about the First Presbyterian Theater and how you can get tickets, please visit them at firstpresbyteriantheater.com or call them at 422-6329. Arts Weekly will return in a moment.